Alright guys, we're going to jump right in today, talking about the Panama Canal. I wanted to start with this really cool cartoon that I think is very clear, sends a very clear message. Obviously this guy right here, Teddy Roosevelt, and judging by the grand size of him, you can see the power and the symbolic nature of what he's doing in the Panama region. I really like this cartoon because you can see here, right, one ocean on this side, let's just say this is the Atlantic, and you can see over here on this side the Pacific, right, and going kind of through the mountains, through Panama, to try to link the two sides. And what's interesting about this is he's kind of dumping all the dirt over here as he goes, just shoveling and dumping as he goes, no regard for anything, just I'm going through it, and that's that. So it's a really cool cartoon. We'll talk about it more in class, but I just wanted to kind of show you what was going on there for the Panama Canal. And if we talk about the Panama Canal, of course you guys know it's going to connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, and we're cutting through this little area, this really small strip of land in Panama. Just to give you a sense of scale. It's actually a 10-mile strip of land, and it goes through some land, it goes over some lakes, and there's some cutting through mountains and things like that. But this is generally kind of the path to take to get through the canal, in case you were wondering. The engineering effort that went into this was extraordinary. We'll watch a movie in class showing this. It's just a tremendous feat. In fact, it's considered one of the 7 industrial wonders of the world. Just how long and hard this was. Again, excavating these things here are called locks, and these locks are what open and close to raise and lower the ships as they go kind of up hills and things like that. But these locks, and you can see here, here's a regular human about 6 feet tall. You can see just how massively huge these locks were. They were enormous, enormous, enormous structures. Panama Canal takes the United States of America 10 years to build, from 1904 to 1914. That's a pretty long time. About 45,000 workers worked on this project. At that time, it cost $352 million. That was the most expensive project ever in the history of mankind up to that point. So that's a pretty significant event. So you know that here's Teddy Roosevelt, interesting enough, on one of those steam shovels. It's kind of cool. So you know it was a pretty big deal. So I want to take a quick look at how does it work and why it matters. So first of all, as you can see, the Atlantic Ocean's over here. You can see the Pacific Ocean over here. And notice that these levels, right, the height of this and the height of this, are about where sea level is. Well, the problem is, how do you get from here to back down to here? And the way they came up with it was that using these, what they called locks. And I showed you guys a picture of those tremendous locks. What these locks are, they're kind of like a bathtub. So imagine filling up a bathtub with water and then taking the water out of the bathtub, so you would go down and then kind of going out. So it's kind of like these, I kind of like to use these bathtub analogies. So kind of here are the locks, the doors close behind it, right? It fills up with water, then the water goes down, and then so this ship would actually go down, then it would go into like the next kind of bathtub. This would fill up with water, and then it would go down, and then these doors would open up and it would come out. So that's kind of how locks work. It's a really cool invention, and these locks were made specifically, exactly at about 33.5 meters wide. Every ship ever built from 1900 to today had something called a Panamax design. And what that meant is every single ship, oil tankers, battleships, freight cargo ships, every single one had this Panamax design. And the one specification was how wide can you make the ship. And every ship would be made no wider than 33.5 meters wide. And that's because that's how wide the locks are at the Panama Canal. And that's how important this canal was, that every ship ever made since 1900 had to fit through this canal. In fact, here is called the American battleship, the USS Iowa, as it says here. Notice USS Iowa is 32.98 meters wide. All right, that gives about a foot of space on this side and a foot of space on that side, and that's it. right? And every battleship we made had to be to this specification. You know, again, this is worldwide, so it shows you how much influence the Panama Canal is going to have. So the Panama Canal, great. We build it, we succeed, and that kind of leads us into our next kind of big shift. And what that is we kind of look at Latin America, and Latin America includes, you know, all of, say, Central America, right? Mexico, all these Central American countries, and also South America, and also the Caribbean. We would consider to be what's called Latin America. So once we open up the Panama Canal, we start to see Latin America a little differently. And historically, if even all the way back to 1823 with something called the Monroe Doctrine, we kind of saw this area of the world as special to us. And in fact, in 1823, this guy, President James Monroe, declared that no new colonies are allowed in Latin America. Okay, basically he closed colonization down from Europe. So if you had a colony here, let's just say Spain had a colony in Cuba, that's fine because it was there before 1823. But after 1823, President James Monroe said, no more. That's it. Done. Europe, go somewhere else. You can't come here anymore. If you're here, that's cool, but no more. So what's really cool, what's really interesting is, here's what James Monroe says back, you know, he says, the American continents are henceforth not to be considered as subjects for future, again, for future colonization by any European power. So basically, no more. If you're here already, great. If you're not here, that's it. And you can see here, like this picture, Uncle Sam putting his hat kind of on Central America, Latin America, kind of saying, it's it, no more. And here are the European countries looking over. And again, you can see here, this writing says the Monroe Doctrine right there. And Uncle Sam saying, don't step over the line. No more new people, right? These are European colonies. You know, no more European powers in, you know, no more. Okay, in the Western Hemisphere. So what's interesting about Teddy Roosevelt is Roosevelt sees Latin America and he says, you know what? Let's take this one step further. And he comes up with what he calls the Roosevelt Corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. And a corollary, this is a very fancy word, it just means it's an extension of an idea. So Roosevelt's extending the Monroe Doctrine. It's called the Roosevelt Corollary. It's the Roosevelt extension to the Monroe Doctrine. Again, the Monroe Doctrine said no new European powers can come in. Well, what Teddy Roosevelt does, he goes a step further. And he says, not only are no European powers allowed to colonize here anymore, but no European powers are allowed to be involved here anymore. If there's a problem going on over here, Europe can't get involved. If there's a revolution happening here, Europe can't get involved. If there's some kind of problem happening over here where Europe feels like they are owed money for a trade dispute, Europe can't get involved. Stay out. And furthermore, the Roosevelt Corollary, so it's going to say, Europe, you can't get involved. And it's going to say, secondly, the United States of America is now going to act as the international police officer here. And if there's problems here, we're going to take care of it. And if there's problems here, we're going to take care of it. No European powers are allowed to even get involved over here. That's a pretty big extension. Here you see Teddy Roosevelt holding this, you know, like this wand or this stick, because in fact, this became known as the big stick policy. Okay, it's kind of an important slogan there. I'm sure you guys will remember this as you go forward. The big stick policy, and basically what he says is, we are going to speak softly, but carry a big stick. So what exactly does that mean? So if you're speaking softly, right, you're friendly, you're casual, you're not angry, you're not trying to intimidate anyone. You're going to be friendly, but if you mess with us, we got a big stick here, and we're not going to be afraid to use it. And basically what that means is our big stick would be the power of our Navy, right? We've got this Panama Canal now. We can link the oceans. We have this very strong Navy that we're building up. We smashed the Spain Navy, right? We are growing in power. And period, this is what Roosevelt basically says, nobody can interfere in the Western Hemisphere. So let me back up a slide. And if you look at the Western Hemisphere is a lot of land and a lot of area. So here's like the Western Hemisphere right here, and here's the Eastern Hemisphere. So basically Teddy Roosevelt is now saying, I'm extending the Monroe Doctrine, and not only can no European powers colonize here, but now no European powers are allowed in here. Stay out altogether. And the U.S. is now the police officer. That's a pretty bold move. And there are some very famous cartoons of Teddy Roosevelt with a big stick in his hand. You can see this, right? This big stick policy. You see he's carrying around the Navy, right? He's got these sailboats, these battleships all tied together, showing that's the big stick he would use, right? That's the power that we're going to have. So again, another one. Teddy Roosevelt, again, extending the Monroe Doctrine. Here it says Monroe Doctrine. Notice this kind of guns extended, right? So the Roosevelt corollary extends the Monroe Doctrine. And here's, let's just say Europe, let's say Great Britain, and they're trying to help the poor Republic of Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. And we're saying, nope, can't help them. Nope, take your hand away. You can't help. Because according to the Roosevelt corollary, now you can't help. Under the Monroe Doctrine, you could help them, but you just can't colonize them.
Connor Sullivan, please come to the front.
Sorry about that. All right, now you can't help them, can't do anything. So it's really cool cartoon, I think, that shows this change. Again, another famous cartoon, Teddy Roosevelt holding the big stick in his hand, right? Showing the separation between Europe over here. So again, you have the European powers over here looking like they want to help, right? Hey, I'll help you. This guy's got his hand up. Hey, I'll help, I'll help, I'll help, I'll help. And of course, Teddy Roosevelt standing here saying, not going to happen. You stay over there. Don't get involved in the Western Hemisphere. We got this. I also like this picture because he's like the police officer, right? He's kind of the one that determines the law. So it's a very bold move for America as we're growing in power, stature, and size. Lastly, just to wrap up here, what you see on this map is very interesting. Here is since basically the Roosevelt corollary, since this big stick policy was enacted, all of the instances that the United States has used its international police power to get involved in Latin America, right? Obviously we know Cuba. Mexico in 1914, we went in there and got involved. Nicaragua in 1911, 1912, 1927, we were involved in Nicaragua. Panama, obviously Panama Canal, 1903, we helped support a new government. Okay, completion of the Panama Canal in 1914. Venezuela, we helped settle boundary disputes in Venezuela. In the Virgin Islands, we purchased them from Denmark. In Puerto Rico, obviously we acquired from Spain. We helped set up a government there. Dominican Republic, we helped get involved. They were basically a failing economy. We helped them out. Haiti, right? We helped them, again, control their government. We kind of occupied Haiti, actually, for a certain time period. But notice, there's no European involvement here. It's all U.S., 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 right? We're policing it. And Roosevelt said, Europe, stay out. So it's a pretty cool transition. We'll talk about this more in class. Hope you guys liked the video. Short and sweet. We're ending it right here. And we'll pick up in class. Thanks. See ya.